Most men start wars with armies. This man started one with a telegram. He took a routine diplomatic message, deleted a few words, sharpened a few others, and released it to the press. Within days, France declared war on Germany, exactly as he had planned. He never fired a shot. He edited a text. He engineered 3 wars, won all 3, and made his enemies look like the aggressors every single time. And then, having built an empire through conflict, he transformed overnight, and spent the next 20 years preventing wars, juggling the great powers of Europe like a circus performer who could never let a single ball drop. His enemies called him a monster. His admirers called him a genius. History calls him the Iron Chancellor. This is the dark psychology of Otto von Bismarck. He was born in 1815 into the Junker class, the proud, conservative landowning gentry of Prussia. And for the first 30 years of his life, almost no one took him seriously. Young Bismarck was, by all accounts, a disaster waiting to happen. At university, he fought duels by the dozen, drank legendarily, ran up debts, and terrorized polite society. They called him the Mad Bismarck. He tried the civil service and quit in boredom, declaring that he wanted to make his own music or none at all. He retreated to manage the family estates, a giant, furious, brilliant man rotting in the countryside. But the years in the political wilderness taught him something his polished rivals never learned. Bismarck had no patience for theories, ideals, or how the world should work. He developed an almost predatory instinct for how it actually worked, who held real power, what they feared, what they wanted, and what they would trade. When he finally entered politics and then diplomacy, that instinct made him terrifying. Sent as Prussia's envoy to the German Confederation, he studied the mighty Austrian Empire up close, and concluded, coldly, that Austria was not Prussia's partner. It was the obstacle. While others dreamed, Bismarck countered. In 1862, with Prussia's government paralyzed by a constitutional crisis, the king reached for the most dangerous man available. Bismarck became Minister-President of Prussia. The mad squire now held the machine. Within weeks, Bismarck stood before the parliament and delivered the words that would define him. The great questions of the day, he declared, would not be decided by speeches and majority votes, but by blood and iron. It sounds like the creed of a warmonger. But here is what everyone misses, and where the real psychology begins. Bismarck's genius was never violence. It was limits. Watch him in 1866. Prussia crushed the Austrian Empire in a lightning war of just 7 weeks, a victory so total that the Prussian generals and even the king demanded the full prize. March on Vienna, humiliate the enemy, seize their lands, hold the victory parade. Bismarck refused, and he fought his own side with a fury he usually saved for enemies, threatening resignation, by some accounts near breakdown, to stop his own victorious army. Austria would lose the war, he insisted, but keep its dignity. No parade. No annexation of Austria's core lands. A defeated enemy today, he argued, must be available as a friend tomorrow. He was right. Within a few years, humiliation-free Austria drifted into partnership with the Germany that had beaten it, and stayed an ally for the rest of the century. This is the first principle, and almost no victor in history has the discipline for it. Know exactly what you want, take it, and then stop. Total victory creates eternal enemies. Limited victory creates future allies. Bismarck treated war like a surgeon treats a knife. The skill is not in the cutting. It is in knowing precisely when to stop cutting. But before any war, Bismarck played an even subtler game, one that most people never notice, which is exactly why it worked. In every conflict he engineered, Bismarck maneuvered relentlessly to make the other side look like the aggressor. Prussia, in his theater, was always merely defending itself, pushed, provoked, left with no choice. Why does this matter so much? Because Bismarck understood that a war is fought on 2 battlefields at once. One is the field of armies. The other is the field of opinion, the watching neutral powers, the newspapers, the public. A state that looks like the victim can mobilize its people with righteous fury, and the other great powers hesitate to intervene against it. A state that looks like the aggressor fights alone, with the world quietly rooting for its defeat. So Bismarck constructed his wars the way a lawyer constructs a case. He isolated the target diplomatically first, making sure that when the moment came, no one would ride to its rescue. Then he arranged the circumstances so that the enemy, boiling with provoked pride, would strike first. This is the second principle. The one who appears to be in the right has more freedom than the one who is merely strong. Strength wins battles. Perceived innocence wins the permission to fight them. And in 1870, this method produced his dark masterpiece. France and Prussia were circling each other, both proud, both armed, both waiting. Bismarck wanted this war. A war with France was the fire in which the divided German states would finally fuse into one empire. But it had to be a war that France started. Then fate handed him a document. In July 1870, at the spa town of Ems, the French ambassador approached the Prussian king with a demand, pressing him, on a matter of royal politics, for guarantees the king found excessive. The king politely declined and sent Bismarck a routine telegram describing the exchange, leaving it to him to inform the press if he wished. Bismarck read it over dinner. And then, in perhaps the most consequential edit in history, he took out his pencil. He did not add a single lie. He simply cut. He deleted the softening phrases, the courtesies, the context, condensing the message until the same encounter read entirely differently. In his version, the French ambassador had made an insolent demand, and the King of Prussia had curtly dismissed him. An exchange of diplomats now read like an exchange of slaps. He released it to the newspapers, reportedly predicting exactly what it would be, a red rag to the Gallic bull. The effect was chemical. In Paris, the press exploded, France insulted. In Berlin, the same text produced the mirror image, our king insulted. Two nations read the same edited words and each saw its own honor violated. Within days, whipped into fury, France declared war. Exactly as designed. France stood before Europe as the aggressor. The southern German states, treaty-bound and emotionally inflamed, rallied to Prussia. The French armies were shattered with stunning speed. And in January 1871, in the Hall of Mirrors at Versailles, the Palace of French Glory, the German Empire was proclaimed, with Bismarck standing at its center in a white uniform. He had unified a nation. And the founding document of that unification was an edited telegram. This is the third principle, and it may be the darkest. You don't need to lie to manipulate. You only need to choose which truths survive the edit. And your enemy's pride will do the rest. And now came the transformation that separates Bismarck from every ordinary conqueror. The morning after victory, the firestarter became a fireman. Bismarck looked at his new creation, a powerful, rich, frightening empire in the heart of Europe, and understood instantly that its greatest danger was success itself. Germany was now strong enough that if the other powers ever united against it, it would be crushed from all sides at once. His famous nightmare, the coalition. So for the next 20 years, the man who had engineered 3 wars devoted himself to preventing all wars, at least, all wars involving Germany. He declared the empire satisfied. No more expansion, no more conquest. He staged himself as Europe's honest broker, hosting congresses, mediating disputes. And behind the scenes, he built one of the most intricate webs in diplomatic history, a lattice of overlapping alliances and secret treaties designed with a single cold purpose. Every great power should feel it needed Germany, and no two powers should ever feel safe combining against her. He kept rivals apart, bound potential enemies to Berlin with contradictory promises, and made himself the indispensable center through which all of European politics had to pass. He described the game himself, a juggler keeping 5 balls in the air, never allowed to drop one. This is the 4th principle. Anyone can create chaos. Chaos is cheap. Power belongs to the one who becomes the manager of the chaos, the single indispensable node without whom the whole system collapses. Europe didn't stay at peace because it loved peace. It stayed at peace because one man in Berlin was holding all the strings, and everyone knew it. At home, Bismarck faced a different kind of enemy, the rising socialist movement, feeding on the misery of industrial workers and growing with every election. His first instinct was force, harsh anti-socialist laws, banned newspapers, broken organizations. It failed. The movement only grew, as persecuted movements do. So Bismarck did something that stunned everyone, allies and enemies alike. This arch-conservative aristocrat, this hammer of the left, began building what the socialists had been demanding: health insurance for workers, accident insurance, and then old-age pensions, the world's first modern welfare state, born not in a revolution, but in the office of its fiercest opponent. Was it compassion? Bismarck barely pretended. His logic was glacial. A worker with a pension, he understood, has something to lose. A man whose security flows from the state does not burn the state down. Every benefit he granted was a weapon quietly removed from his enemy's hands. Why should workers man the barricades for promises, when the Iron Chancellor was delivering the reality? This is the fifth principle, and modern politicians use it to this day. You don't have to defeat your opponent's argument. You can simply take it. Steal the enemy's program, implement it on your own terms, and the enemy is left standing on a stage with nothing to say. But a system built entirely around one indispensable man contains a time bomb. And in 1888, the fuse was lit. A young new Kaiser ascended the throne, Wilhelm II, brilliant sounding, impulsive, vain, and desperate to rule in his own right. He had no intention of reigning in the shadow of a 75-year-old legend. 2 years later, he forced the old man out. A famous cartoon captured the moment for all of history: the great ship of state and the old pilot quietly descending the ladder into the sea, while the young emperor watches from above. The title, Dropping the Pilot. And here Bismarck's greatest strength stands revealed as his greatest failure. He had built the empire's entire machinery, the juggling act, the secret treaties, the web of contradictions, around one operator, himself. He had made himself so indispensable that he never built a system that could run without him, never trained a successor who could hold the 5 balls. The young Kaiser's men let the crucial treaties lapse. The careful web unraveled, strand by strand. The powers Bismarck had kept apart began drifting together, into exactly the opposing coalition he had spent 20 years preventing. The old man watched it all from retirement, raging and prophesying. He is said to have warned that the Great European War, when it came, would be sparked by some damned foolish thing in the Balkans. He died in 1898. 16 years later, a pistol fired in the Balkans, in Sarajevo, and the coalition of his nightmares marched on Germany from all sides. The machine he built, in hands that could not operate it, dragged the world into the First World War. So what does Bismarck really teach us? That the highest form of power is not force, it is design. He won his wars before they started, isolating the enemy, arranging the provocation, editing reality until his opponent's own pride pulled the trigger. He knew that appearing to be the victim is worth more than an extra army, that a defeated enemy spared today is an ally tomorrow, and that the surest way to disarm an opponent is to steal his cause. But his ending carries the darker half of the lesson. Bismarck made himself indispensable, and indispensability is a loan that history always collects. A system that only you can operate will survive exactly as long as you do. He was the greatest juggler Europe ever produced, and he never taught anyone else the trick. The balls he kept in the air for 20 years came down as the First World War. So the question Bismarck leaves you with cuts both ways. In your own world, your work, your ambitions, are you building something that runs without you? Or are you building a stage that collapses the day you leave it? If this changed the way you see power, subscribe. Because here, we don't study history to escape the past. We study it to understand the games being played around you, right now. And to meet the diplomat who survived every collapse Bismarck feared, watch our video on Talleyrand next. Or see the man who wrote the playbook they both followed, Machiavelli.